From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Tonight on Cronkite News, a new CDC report may indicate a rise in fentanyl deaths on the West Coast, even as overdoses on the East Coast have declined. We'll talk to officials to find out why.
Plus, rising housing costs here in Arizona are putting financial strain on Hispanic families, especially when it comes to also paying for health care.
Plus, Phoenix Suns center DeAndre Ayton faces a 25-game suspension after testing positive for diuretic use. But what are diuretics and why can athletes get punished for them? We'll explain.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Ellie Nakamoto-White.
And I'm Anthony Totri. Thanks for joining us. Our top story tonight, a new report from the CDC shows that even though fentanyl deaths are down on the East Coast, overdose deaths in the West have actually increased. Ellie spoke with the DEA to find out why.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. Its most common medical use is to help patients manage pain. But fentanyl is a potent opioid, more than 80 times stronger than morphine, leading to abuse of the drug. The DEA says illegal fentanyl is often mixed with heroin to boost potency, but that also makes fentanyl deadly. Nationwide, it was found in nearly 40% of drug overdose deaths in 2017. Fentanyl now ranks first for fatal overdoses, nearly twice the rate of heroin deaths and 3 times the rate of deaths involving methamphetamine.
Very cheap drug, highly addictive, very deadly.
Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid the Drug Enforcement Administration says is at least 10 times stronger than morphine.
When you take an opioid like fentanyl, heroin, even the pharmaceutical pills, you just fall asleep and you don't wake up.
A report released today by the Center for Disease Control with 2017 numbers says fentanyl was a factor in nearly 40% of drug overdose deaths. Curry says that in Arizona, fentanyl can be as cheap as $5 to $7 per pill.
Just fiscal year 2019 alone, Arizona law enforcement seized 1.4 million of the M30 pills, which resemble oxycodone.
Holly Hedegaard, the lead author of the study and a medical epidemiologist for the National Center for Health Statistics, says that although the new report shows the northeastern states of the country being severely affected by fentanyl overdoses, experts worry the expansion of fentanyl into western states will mean a new chapter in the opioid epidemic.
In 2011 for fentanyl was 0.5 per 100,000, and in 2017 the rate is now up to 8.7 per 100,000. So it's increased rather dramatically.
These drugs are just deadly. There's nothing to them that's of any benefit.
The DEA hopes that informing people about the dangers of fentanyl can reduce the number of overdose deaths.
Paying rent can be a challenge for many Arizona families, but the challenge of juggling bills disproportionately affects Hispanic ones. Cronkite News' Tyann Marshburn took a look at how rising housing costs are affecting their ability to pay for health care.
Yannette Rubio is a single mother of 3.
It's difficult for someone like me. We don't have resources.
Rubio says that she makes $1,500 a month and pays $1,200 for rent. That leaves her with only $300 for groceries and nothing for medical care. Last year, she said that she had an emergency but couldn't get the help that she needed.
I was in an accident and my knee is hurting me. I couldn't go to the doctor because I don't have money to pay for the doctor.
According to a study presented by Chicanos por la Casa and Unidos US, in 2017, nearly 30% of Hispanics living in Phoenix paid more than 50% of their income on rent. That doesn't leave much money for anything else.
The people we're seeing are really struggling.
Edney Gonzalez, co-executive director for Helping Families in Need, says that they educate families with financial hardships on their options for assistance.
Our organization helps families apply for Access, SNAP, TANF, and Kids Care, also the Affordable Care Act, the ACA Marketplace applications.
In the Valley, Chicanos por la Casa promotes the idea of home buying versus renting.
Budgeting, credit, those things that are necessary in order for them to become home buyers, they can use those same skills to rent properties if they aren't able to purchase at the time.
Rubio says that she's been renting for the last 2 years but is looking to find another place with lower rent. In the meantime, she says she has no other option but to be patient while she looks to improve her living situation.
You have to tolerate many things.
In Phoenix, Tyann Marshburn, Cronkite News.
According to a study conducted by the Arizona Department of Health Services, between 2013 and 2017, 20% of Hispanics in Arizona didn't have health insurance.
The election may be a year off, but lawmakers, advocates, and celebrities at a recent gathering in Washington say it's not too early to start talking about issues affecting Latinos, especially the next generation of voters. Cronkite News reporter Brian Peach has the story from our Washington bureau.
Advocates at the Senate Latino Summit here said that as more and more young Latinos reach voting age, their voices and votes will become a larger part of American politics.
And about a quarter of them are Latino. When they get older, they will want to know where we were during this momentous day and during this momentous time.
Klobuchar, a 2020 Democratic presidential hopeful, said that Latinos will have more than just an impact on the polls. They're already having a positive impact on the economy. Actress Eva Longoria said Latinos cannot be shy about the fact that, from dishwashers to doctors, their impact on the economy should not be taken for granted.
We, as Hispanics, have been focused on the moral imperative. This is inhumane, what is happening on the border. How we are treating other human beings is just appalling. And that argument is not working. And so we need the economic imperative argument.
The summit covered everything from DACA to voting rights to immigration policy, matters that lawmakers and advocates urged Latino voters to take into their own hands.
If we want to determine our own future instead of someone else determining our future, then we need to be engaged, we need to go out and vote, and we need to participate in the political process, because when we don't, we let someone else decide for us.
In Washington, Brian Peach, Cronkite News.
This week, a Valley teacher became the first Native American to receive the Arizona Educational Foundation's Teacher of the Year Award. Lynette Stant, who is Navajo, teaches 3rd grade at Salt River Elementary in the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. Along with the honor, Stant received $15,000 and the opportunity to travel across the country for different programs, including a week at International Space Camp and trips to Washington, D.C. and Google's headquarters. Stant is also now eligible for the national award.
Arizona receives most of its annual rainfall during the winter season. Some of this rain can come from weather events known as atmospheric rivers. That's where Cronkite News reporter Jordan Evans joins us live from La Jolla, California, to explain a new system of categorizing these rivers. Jordan?
Yep, and a very good afternoon to you also. We are live from the beaches of sunny Southern California here in La Jolla. We've got the ocean behind me, the waves crashing, as well as the pier. Very, very gorgeous scenery out here right now. So we're live at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography here at the University of California, San Diego. And a team of researchers are actually beginning to categorize atmospheric rivers. And atmospheric rivers are big weather phenomenons that are responsible for heavy rainfall events across the western U.S. This actually affects us in Arizona during the winter. So we're learning about what these categories means and how they can potentially impact forecasting and what this means for you when heavy rainfall is on the way.
The AR scale should provide a single number that should help convey the potential benefits or hazards associated with any individual weather event that may be in the forecast. That should serve as a starting point for the public and regional water managers to start discussing the potential implications of weather that's coming into their forecast area.
So as you just saw there, we launched a weather balloon with a field team earlier right off of this pier behind me. And those are just one of the instruments that help determine the categories of these atmospheric rivers. So coming up later on Cronkite News, we're going to sit down with some water resource managers and see how they plan to hopefully implement this new category system in their water planning. Live from La Jolla, California, Jordan Evans, Cronkite News.
And now we're joined by our Ricky Cornish, whose birthday is tomorrow. Ricky, how you doing?
I'm super excited, as you can probably tell.
Good. What's the weather going to be looking like for all your birthday festivities?
It's going to be great. Thankfully, my birthday's super close to Halloween, so the temperatures just drop, and especially here in Phoenix, it's really nice. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to compare the temperatures here to across the country. So if we take a look at this country map, the temperatures are absolutely crazy because they're so cold. You know, I sometimes forget that in the fall time, it's supposed to be cold. But as you can see throughout the country, it's just cold. 49 degrees up in Buffalo, and then we're taking a look at 53 degrees in Kansas City. I really couldn't believe 48 degrees in Dallas. That is cold. And I think what might be the most shocking across this map, the hottest temperature is 89 degrees in LA. Kind of crazy because we would probably think it'd be hottest here, but that's just not the case. So if you're staying here for the weekend and looking for some things to do tonight, let's take a look at your temperatures. I mean, pretty nice. 74 degrees as the high at 8 p.m. And then once 10 p.m. rolls around, just a high of 69 degrees. It's finally time to put on those sweatshirts and go out with the family and friends. No matter if you're going outdoors or indoors, it's time to stay cozy and warm. And now let's talk about the weekend. There's tons of things happening, and I'm super excited because the Arizona State Fair has been going on all month, and it actually ends Sunday, my birthday. So if you want to celebrate and you're not with me, just go get a funnel cake. It's the same thing. We also have the Fall Festival happening at Scottsdale, so great opportunity for you to go with the kids and enjoy some games. And then, of course, we have Dia de los Muertos festivals happening at the Mesa Arts Center and at Indian School. So great opportunities to have some fun memories this weekend. And then let's take a look at your forecast. Starting at this weekend, the high on Sunday is just 87 degrees. And then, as you can see, drastically changes to the high of 74 on Monday. But then let's take a look at the rest of the week. Just 70s, mid-70s the entire week. And on Friday, we have a high of 78 degrees. Put on those sweatshirts. It's going to be chilly. In the Weather Center, Ricky Cornish, Cronkite News.
As the Hamilton Huskies coaching staff is preparing their players for another game, they're being observed by a new coach. Former longtime NFL offensive line coach Bob Wiley was brought on this season as a mentor for the coaching staff, providing insight and guidance for them on what they can do to bring the best out of their players and themselves. Even with Wiley only being here on a volunteer basis, coaches like Mark Tucker have soaked up information and are grateful that Wiley has taken an interest in making him a better teacher of the game.
Lowly high school football coach, and he's an NFL guy, and he gave me DVDs, he gave me books or whatever. So it's all stuff that I can use as a tool to help me become a better coach.
A better prepared coaching staff has resulted in a better product on the field for the Huskies, who sport a 7-1 record so far this season. The Huskies are on the road to face the Perry Pumas tonight. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. After starting off the season strong with a blowout victory over the Sacramento Kings, the Phoenix Suns might be in trouble.
The NBA hit Phoenix Suns center DeAndre Ayton with a 25-game suspension late Thursday for violating the terms of the league's anti-drug program. Ayton tested positive for an undisclosed banned diuretic. According to the Mayo Clinic, medically diuretics are typically prescribed to treat high blood pressure, along with heart failure and liver failure. However, they are widely prohibited in sports because they can be used to push drugs out of a player's system faster than usual. By serving to rid the body of excess fluid, diuretics increase the flow of urination, thus flushing other potential drugs from the body that might pop up on a urine test. Assistant professor at ASU's College of Health Solutions, Sid Angadi, whose expertise is in cardiovascular physiology, says there is no reason a healthy individual would need to take a diuretic. However, it is possible that Ayton took a supplement that he did not know was tainted with a diuretic.
In healthy people, there's absolutely no reason why you should take them because they are powerful drugs that can have significant side effects. For instance, Lasix, furosemide, the drug I told you about, you pee a lot, but if you use it long term, you can lose a lot of potassium with that. And when that happens, potassium makes your heart go. And if you get hypokalemic, that's very bad for your heart. You can have a serious cardiac issue.
Ayton is just the 11th NBA player since 2011 to be suspended under the league's drug policy and the 33rd in league history. Coming up next, Cronkite News and Review.
We take a look back at some of our top stories from earlier this week, including an in-depth look at the link between the availability of firearms and suicides across the country.
And downtown Phoenix got its very first grocery store this week, pulling the area out of the food desert. We'll tell you what that means for downtown residents.
Join Emmy Award-winning NBC anchor Lester Holt as he receives the 2019 Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism. Attracting industry leaders from the media, politics, business, and education, the award luncheon is the Cronkite School's signature event. Tickets for the luncheon ceremony on Monday, November 4th at the Sheraton in Phoenix are available for sale at cronkite.asu.edu/luncheon or call 602-496-0482.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles. In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Welcome back to Cronkite News in Review.
One of our top stories this week, House Democrats releasing a study that they say shows a link between the availability of guns and rising number of suicides by firearm.
And Phoenix was among the top metro areas in the country for such deaths. Hannah Ehrlich has more from our Washington bureau.
The report by Democrats on the Joint Economic Committee said the Phoenix metro area was 6th highest in the nation, with the rate of 10.6 firearm suicides per 100,000 people. But that was just one of the report's findings.
It said suicides with a gun are more likely in rural areas and more likely in western and southern states where guns are more prevalent. It also showed a steady increase in such suicides over the last 17 years. Robin Lloyd of the gun safety organization Giffords says some groups are getting hit harder than others.
I think, as the Congresswoman said, older white men are at the most at risk for suicide with firearms. Of course, there are demographics that are disproportionately impacted. Veterans is one of them. And then I do think that we are seeing an increase of suicide with firearms among young people.
The report confirmed that, showing that more than 35% of the men who committed suicide with a firearm in Arizona were 65 and over. That reflected national numbers, which showed older men are more at risk to commit suicide with a firearm. But every group is affected. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Kylie Ann Hunter explains this is in part to the access people have to firearms in their households.
That female veterans are up to 75 times more likely to own guns than their civilian counterparts, as well as 300 times more likely to die by gun suicide than a civilian.
While the highest numbers were in rural areas, some urban areas bucked the trend, like the Phoenix Mesa Scottsdale area, where the rate of 10.6 firearm suicides per 100,000 residents was well above the national rate of 7.7 such suicides. Lloyd says it's absolutely not the case that other forms of suicides are as prevalent as those by firearm. But gun suicides are more deadly, she said, which is why action must be taken.
A lot of times people who survive a suicide attempt do not go on to commit suicide. So it is very critical that we prevent people from turning to the most lethal means of suicide in that acute moment.
Advocates here called on the Senate to act on a bill toughening background checks on gun purchases. It passed the House in February, but has stalled in the Senate. We reached out to the National Rifle Association and the Arizona State Rifle and Pistol Association for comment, but have not heard back. In Washington, Hannah Ehrlich, Cronkite News.
It's been almost a month since the House began an impeachment inquiry of President Donald Trump over charges he tried to withhold aid to Ukraine in exchange for political favors.
For weeks now, 3 House committees have been meeting behind closed doors in a secure hearing room to take depositions in the case. That ended Wednesday when angry Republicans, including 2 from Arizona, demanded open hearings, then stormed the proceedings.
Cronkite News reporter Heather Cumberledge reports from our Washington bureau.
They refused us once again.
Stay.
This is an outrage.
Arizona Representative Debbie Lesko was not the only one outraged after House Republicans stormed into, and some were kicked out of, a closed-door impeachment hearing today.
You should be outraged if you're an American at what's happening here. You should be allowed to confront your accusers. This is being held behind closed doors for a reason.
Not the least of which is to shield potential witnesses from a White House that has refused to cooperate with the probe. California Congressman Eric Swalwell said the Republicans who barged in today did more than delay the meeting. They also may have compromised a secure hearing room by bringing in their phones.
Many members, dozens of members, brought in electronics, and they not only brought in their unauthorized bodies, they may have brought in the Russians and the Chinese with electronics into a space, which will require that the space at some point in time be sanitized.
Republicans who appeared to be live tweeting from inside the room later said the tweets were coming from staff.
A witness who was being deposed when the lawmakers stormed in was quickly taken out and the hearing was adjourned this morning, but many of the members stayed for hours. And Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, who led the incursion, said they might try to get back in this evening.
We want to know what's going on, and it's only reasonable that we would have questions.
But Swalwell said many Republicans spent more time camped out in the room today than they have during weeks of testimony. While he called it obstruction, Lesko called it a demand for transparency.
Fair, and it's a total political hit job on the President of the United States. And this is unjust. I hope the American people see it for what it is.
While Lesko called it a hit job, another Arizona lawmaker said it was just Congress doing its job by keeping the president in check.
Tucson Democratic Congressman Raul Grijalva called Republican actions a historical embarrassment to our country. Thursday marked a historic moment for downtown Phoenix as the first Fry's supermarket opened its doors.
The city has been missing just one thing, a grocery store, until now. Thanks, guys. This new 67,000 square foot building will be fulfilling a big need for those in the Phoenix area. Those who came earlier say this should be something that should have happened years ago.
Well, because I am in a wheelchair, it's just very, very hard and difficult to get groceries back from a long distance.
For shoppers like Sarah Hawk-Selcher, the opening of this Fry's supermarket in downtown Phoenix means more than just a new grocery store. It means basic necessities will be a little bit closer to home.
Oh, I had to go a long ways. We're on the other side of town, and it was very, very difficult to bring all that stuff back on my wheelchair.
Until now, the closest grocery store was miles away. With this new addition, downtown Phoenix will no longer be known as a food desert.
Food deserts are areas that don't have accessible foods within, let's say, 20 minutes of walking to a place or within a certain radius around them.
It provides residents here who are in downtown the ability to get what they need right where they need it.
Fry's manager Chris Berryman says he is excited to make life a bit easier for downtown Phoenix residents and the workers.
So the people that don't want to drive, use light rail, we're going to be very convenient for that.
During today's opening, thousands of shoppers crowded the store.
It's been chaotic. Absolutely chaotic.
But despite the throngs of people, it's clear many have been waiting for this day for far too long.
I think it is so wonderful because there was no other grocery store around here. A lot of people are on government, you know, and I am. And so I've been shopping at CVS, and man, it just drained me. I think it's going to be helpful for everybody.
In addition to today's opening, Fry's has announced it's donating $40,000 to 2 local charities that fight food insecurity across the state. Live in downtown Phoenix, Ellie Nakamoto-White, Cronkite News. A new attraction the Arizona State Fair has locals lining up for their chance at a prize, but this isn't your everyday ring toss.
Cronkite News eSports reporter Eric Ruby shows us how and why eSports have made their way to the fairgrounds.
Well, esports is an industry that's seen a major boom, and now, with the help of the Arizona State Fair, audiences are growing one Arizonan at a time. The State Fair, an Arizona institution since 1905, is experimenting with a new attraction this year.
In years past, going to the State Fair meant playing games like this, but now, it means using games like this.
The State Fair is holding an esports exhibition and competition for the first time ever. The event has everything from casual gaming experiences to collegiate level competitions and tournaments for money. State Fair representative and director of sponsorships Kat Landingen says despite it only being their first year, they're already feeling support from fans and sponsors.
We've gotten a lot of support online. We've gotten a lot of partners in the esports world all over the city contacting us, so that's amazing. That's one of the goals that we had.
Not only has the event brought eyes to the esports world, it's brought money. Through a partnership with the Arizona Lottery, the State Fair has put on daily cash matches where they'll be giving away $19,000 to the winners over the entirety of the fair. But one of the vendor coordinators, stage director Brian Hollis, thinks the importance of events like these at places like the State Fair goes beyond just the money.
I mean, just in general, esports is real. It's not going away. It's growing. It's only going to get bigger.
It is the sport of the future. And whether you think sports have to do with athletics or not, it's not the point. The point is this is not going anywhere. And these being at agricultural fairs like this are a prime example.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS.
Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. Maricopa County begins the process of suspending the county assessor who remains in jail, and 3 Arizona lawmakers take part in storming a closed-door congressional deposition.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, more Republican lawmakers are attacking the impeachment process rather than declaring the president innocent. Coming up after Cronkite News and Arizona Horizon on Arizona PBS.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.